What up? It's Egeltorp here again. I got 100 subs now, and also my last video popped off like crazy, so thank you. Anyway, I joined a game jam while quitting nicotine, and I wasted the first third of the jam doing absolutely nothing. But I still ended up making a dope-ass Mega Man style platformer where you brutally murder frogs. Here's how I did it. Well, the jam started on a Friday, but I didn't do shit that day, since the limitation was too wacky to even think about. On Saturday, however, I finally began planning the game. So I brainstormed a few different ideas. I had a frog platformer with a tongue grappling hook idea, but that was way too damn cliche and basic. I also had an idea for like a 3D Pong style game but with frogs. Too damn weird to figure out, to be honest, and I didn't have the brains for it. Eventually, I landed on the core concept of just kill the frogs, kill them all. Really unique. Well, I moved on with that concept in my mind. It was actually a bit more refined than just kill frogs. I had this Mega Man inspired platformer in my mind, and I really felt like doing an action platformer, since I haven't actually done that before. Initially, I had planned sword-based attacks, and I got so far as to make the sprite for it. Then I actually changed that to red lasers, and I finally settled on just grey bullets. I also had the idea for frog enemies that flee and avoid the player using level geometry, but that turned out to be way too messy given that I only had like 40 hours to make the entire game when I eventually got started on it. So I settled on just static enemies and decided to make the game a bit of a power trip fantasy for frog haters instead. Initially I also had 10 levels planned, each with more enemies and increasing difficulty. Yeah, that was gonna be impossible, so I scaled it down to just 3 levels. A lot more manageable for a game jam. I also had a whole time trial, damage and HP system planned, but I scrapped all of that due to overscoping, basically. Initially I also had 10 levels planned. So I simplified the combat system to static enemies and projectile weapons instead of swords. I focused on juicy kills, responsive feedback and Mega Man style precision platforming. First thing I did, I created the first version of the tile set. Then I basically just made the first version of the scene. I added some rain and some backgrounds and yeah, this is it. Actually got this shit working. It looks decent. I had to fuck up the palette to make it work, but it's gonna look good. I don't know why I'm recording on this, I have a PC, but alright. But it felt a little too depressing though, so I later changed it to this. So yeah, I basically decided on a more cartoony pixel art style with some bolder outlines. Also recolored the player sprite to match the new look, but now he kinda looks like one of the guard dudes in The Incredibles. Oh shit, my bad. Also, this is the palette I used. You can find it on low spec, I have the link in the description, maybe. I'm pretty lazy, so I don't know. Then I added a basic player controller, but I was pretty stupid, so I forgot to lock the Z rotation. Otherwise it worked pretty well.
Kinda works.
What a classic game dev moment, am I right? Anyway, I then rebuilt the player controller from scratch to behave more like the one from Banfu, except less floaty of course.
I like the running animation, I just stole it from Mega Man.
And I also added this basic jump animation. Then it was time for combat, and I implemented a simple sword attack, which I would later delete altogether. Then it was actually time for some proper juice, since it was difficult to get excited for the project when the kills felt so fucking bland. So I added some really juicy kill feedback, you know, blood, particles, sound, all that stuff. Screen shake, looks awesome. Then it was time for some miscellaneous stuff. Miscellaneous systems. Anyway, I added a moving camera, I added some dashing that actually sucked, so I just deleted it all. I spent a few hours fine-tuning the juice effects. I added some, you know, all the sound effects for shooting and jumping and all that shit. I composed a basic music track that sounds like this. Then I built the full first version of the game just to test if it worked in itch, or on itch, my bad. And I ended the day at like 4 AM feeling physically awful, but mentally pretty okay. Although that's a lie, because I didn't go to sleep. I actually got carried away making the cover art, the banner, and the entire itch.io page. Because I find it really helps me to visualize the end product if I have the page set up. I don't know why, it just looks good. Day 2 was when I actually realized the original concept lacked any clear goal or any uniqueness. Here's a bit of that, despair. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not very fucking motivated about this shitty ass frog game. I don't like it. It sucks, it sounds boring as fuck, and I have no interesting gameplay mechanics planned. Oh, look at that, my headset's done recharging. Time to go myself. Oh my god. So this was when I reduced the scope from 10 levels to just 3 levels, and I kind of decided to make it, you know, a wacky power trip instead of a 10 level shooter game. And also came up with the 3rd level idea for being a boulder. But when I got to deving on the second day, I realized the animations were all broken, and I absolutely hate the Unity animation system. I'd just been, too zoinked the day before to even notice that. That was about a 1 hour setback. Anyway, and I actually built and implemented the entire level 1 platforming, the win condition, which is basically just make sure all frogs are dead, and then, load the next level. With about 10 hours left though, I knew I had to stop worrying about polish and edge cases preventing the player from dying after winning the level. I don't really care, just stand still and you won't die. So, speedrun of some things I did after I got anxiety because of the deadline. I introduced the wheel frog enemy, which was insanely chaotic but really fun.
Men är han seriös eller?
I added the blood and gore effects for both the player and the frogs. I added the parallax for background effects. I started work on level 2. I added this dangling arrow with a chain that's really similar to the cogs from Bound for Master. I also built a long fall section with this vignette effect that's super fucking cool. I also created this modular trigger script to control various level events. And I don't have a picture of the script, so here's another script. Yeah, that's just a script. And after that, I pretty much reworked the level 2 visuals. I made it a bit darker and cooler. I cleaned up the shooting animations too, and this is pretty much when I added basic collision to the laser bullets so they don't go through walls. Because I was super close to forgetting to do that, and you could just shoot every enemy through every wall. Also changed the visuals and the sound effects at this point to actually be a gunshot. And after a couple of hours, I actually finished level 2. Now behind the scenes, the game was a fucking mess under the hood. The scene names are pure chaos. Loading levels is beyond stupid. It loads one scene that just says here's level 2 and then it actually loads level 2. It's stupid, it works, it looks good, but it's stupid. The folder structure is pure shit and the codebase was pretty messy and ad hoc, but overall, the project was messy under the hood, but such is the nature of jams, and the point is, the game works. As the deadline grew closer, I created the Rolling Stone player character thing with accompanying sound effects by my mouth. I finished level 3 with a mini boss fight against these 4 wheel frogs, which can't really kill you at all, and a final purple frog to slaughter in slow motion, which, just how cool is that? Then I hastily built the basic menu system with about 20 minutes left before submission, so that's pretty impressive if you ask me. After submitting, I did around 3 additional builds just to fix some minor bugs with grounding and the colliders and shit. And I also redid the controls a bit because people told me they were stupid. I had X to jump and Z to shoot, and they wanted Z to jump and X to shoot, so that's how it is now. The game was very rough during early development, but came together quite nicely as soon as I added the juicy frog kills, and especially when I changed the gun from a laser to a bullet. And during the rating period I got so many positive comments, and that really made me happy. It seemed like people really enjoyed the art style of the game, and they also loved the juicy feedback when killing frogs. So it made me feel really good about spending all that time fine-tuning the particle effects and sounds for that.
Yeah, it's me. I'm back again. I'm editing the video right now. It's kind of crazy, I know. But I just wanted to do some honorable mentions for some games that I really enjoyed in the jam. So yeah, coming up. Can this guy walk any slower? Holy shit! Yeah, I love this. Actually. Now, what the fuck is this? Solo developer ventures into the dark unknown. Delightful. Yeah, no one talks like this, bruh. I hate to be that guy, but you're using AI to spam feedback on jam games to get more traffic to your own game. So, yeah, maybe get some integrity, I don't know. Your game was really cool, but it really fucks it all up when you go and do this. It's super just insincere. So, yeah.
And after the rating period was over, I ended up getting 10th place overall. 6th place for presentation, which feels good because I love putting a lot of work into my itch pages. And 5th place in enjoyment, so I'm quite happy with my ratings. Bottom line is, I have lots of areas for improvement, especially in planning and structure, holy shit. But I also learned a lot for future jams. So, all in all, a good experience. Go play my game Kaeru, and give me lots of donations too, please. I am in crippling debt.